Good morning. Happy Saturday to you all. Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. We've got so much to share this morning, so much to talk about. We're going to be leading off with the confusion of the tariffs. And it's absolutely incredible what's happening here. But here's Donald Trump. No, I'm going to save this when we come back after this, after our intro, because it's just incredible stuff happening.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please subscribe. I want to thank all of you on Rumble, by the way, and in Substack for subscribing and supporting us in such huge numbers. And thank you yesterday again for supporting the show in the way you did, all of you. And it's so important to just like the station now and share it with your friends and family, because believe me, you too won't do it. And I can see they got their thumb on this broadcast today. So please share it with your friends and family. Let's move the numbers upwards. We need to do that. So I want to show this at the. I wanted to show this at the very
I
beginning.
like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person.
I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. Well, we've heard this one before, haven't we? This is Donald Trump, who endorsed Mark Carney 3 times during the federal election campaign, including on the last day. Which, yeah, I thought that was a little bit of interference, but now I know why Donald Trump supported, as he calls him, Carney. It's not Mark Carney. It's not Mark. It's not even Prime Minister Carney. It's I like Carney. It's just incredible what he's saying here. And so what went on yesterday? And by the way, we will have Katie Pasitnay from the Universal Ostrich Farm joining us to talk about how an appeals court has rejected this farm's plea to cancel the culling of their 399 ostriches by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So we'll get, as soon as Katie joins the show, we will be talking to her about that. But what's going on here? It's absolutely incredible, because I know Donald Trump is playing games, but so is Carney. Carney's playing games here. And of course, the big thing, Canada removing retaliatory tariffs on CUSMA compliant U.S. goods. Okay, CUSMA or USMCA, this is a free trade agreement with the United States and Russia. So it's not a bad thing that these retaliatory tariffs are being dropped, because all they are is taxes on consumers. And we'll read a bit about that in a bit. However, what this is about is Mark Carney getting elected under false pretenses. And that's the issue. Canadians can put their elbows down and keep their heads high. Goldie Hyder, another big insider with the Progressive Conservative Party. So I don't know what we have to keep our heads high about with Mark Carney as Prime Minister. This guy is a disaster. But once again, who's going to be most angry at Mark Carney about this? It's going to be the boomers in their late 60s and early 70s who turned out in fairly substantial numbers to support Mark Carney because they thought he was going to save them from the existential threats of the United States and Mark Carney. Sorry, Donald Trump. So what happens? Mark Carney knew this was going to happen all along. He's been playing a game. And that's why he should not have become prime minister. He was elected under false pretenses. He pretended it was going to be elbows up, and I can't even, I hate to do that mannerism, and I hate to even talk about that word, that phrase, because it's been so overused. It doesn't mean anything anymore, except maybe in a hockey game, but it means nothing in international affairs or politics or foreign policy for Canada. It's become an absolute cipher. It means nothing. Michelle Rempel Garner jokes about this Globe and Mail op-ed by Goldie Hayer. Laugh out loud. Where was this editorial during the campaign? But of course, they all pretended with Mark Carney that he was going to deal with Donald Trump one-on-one. Mark Carney was a man who understands the world. Mark Carney is a man who was a governor of the Bank of England. He can deal with Donald Trump. Pierre Poilievre can't deal with Donald Trump because Pierre Poilievre has spent his whole life in the House of Commons. He's never worked in the real world. He doesn't understand how things work. Mark Carney understands. Yeah, he understands he was going to collapse as soon as he won that federal election. And that's what it's been. And of course, Mark Carney is just having a blast about this. I like Carney a lot. Trump suggests the two sides closer to a deal after Ottawa removes retaliatory tariffs. Do you feel like you're being played, though? And this is really, I guess, if I have any message today, it's that we're constantly being played in this country by the liberals and by the media. Mark Carney got away with this during the election campaign, saying he was not going to take anything from Donald Trump. He was going to fight Donald Trump. He was going to view the United States as an existential threat. And of course, we'll watch Mark Carney in a minute. Suddenly, we have a wonderful relationship with the United States. The free trade agreement is as good as it could possibly be. So I don't understand what the problem is. But when you watch Mark Carney, you can see he doesn't believe a word he's saying. He knows he lied to the Canadian people. He knows he misled Canadians during the federal election. And it's almost like he hasn't spent enough time as a professional politician to lie well enough with a straight face. And the Liberal Party still got its damn pride colors in its logo. What a joke that party is. Focus on our workers, businesses, and building a stronger, more resilient economy. Isn't that nice of Mark? Yeah. He's there for Canadians. Yeah. It's so gratifying to know that. Now, before I forget, I had a couple of things I wanted to show you. And this is the food professor who's saying most counter tariffs affecting food manufacturing, and will be rolled back on September 5th. This is exciting news, the food professor says, because it's good for consumers. So once again, the point is not that retaliatory tariffs were good for Canada. It's that Mark Carney sold them as being good for Canada, and Mark Carney pretended he was going to keep them on just to win an election. This is fraud. This is election fraud. And by the way, if you have a chance to read my latest Substack, which I put up yesterday morning, please do, because I examine exactly why Donald Trump really doesn't like Mark Carney. So, Donald Trump can say, I like Carney. Yeah. He wanted him to be elected because obviously he knows how to deal with Carney, like he knows how to drive a car. like he knows how to build an apartment complex. And this is why Donald Trump really despises Mark Carney. And he loves to embarrass and humiliate Mark Carney, because Mark Carney now doesn't want to buy the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. And this op-ed piece that I wrote for my Substack examines exactly why. And it's Colonel Douglas Macgregor told me in an interview a couple of months back, if you really want to aggravate President Trump and you really want to harm him in some way, you do exactly what your prime minister has done and say, fine, we're not going to use any of your equipment. Donald Trump really was offended by that. Really was offended by Mark Carney going to Sweden and talking about buying the Gripen fighter jet and not more F-35s. The United States is basically down to agriculture and armaments as its chief exports. It doesn't have a manufacturing base anymore. God knows how all of these tariff wars are going to turn out. According to Donald Trump, it's going to mean more jobs in America. It's going to mean the return of the manufacturing sector. Right now, it's a mixed bag. We'll see if that happens, but it's a very, it's a very difficult situation, and I've got to find my Mark Carney clip here. Sorry about that. No, actually, let's listen to Plea. We'll put Mark Carney on in a minute here.
Elbow since he took office, except at our own workers. He did not meet his promise of a July 21st deal with the Americans. Again, his promise, not mine. He did not, he's backed down while claiming that he would stand up. And he's gotten absolutely nothing in return. In fact, American tariffs are twice as high on Canada today as they were when Prime Minister Carney took office, promising to deploy his negotiating skills to get us a win. He promised he would have elbows up. He promised he could, quote, handle Trump, and that he would, quote, negotiate a win. Those are his promises, and he needs to be judged by his word. And this was not any promise, just any old promise on page 73 of his platform. It was the promise on which he ran his entire election campaign. And now he's abandoning it. So either he admits that he was wrong all along, or that he knowingly spread falsehoods to get elected. He needs to explain which of those two things it is.
How is this a position?
Now, before we get into this Mark Carney clip, it's very important to note that Pierre Poilievre is essentially saying the same thing. He's not giving a resounding applause for retaliatory tariffs. He's saying, much like I said, and it's interesting because I was asked yesterday, how would you tell Pierre Poilievre to respond to this? And I said, I would not say, it's horrible. We're dropping retaliatory tariffs, because retaliatory tariffs are anti-free enterprise. They're anti-conservative. They're pro-tax. What he needs to do is focus on Mark Carney as a fraud, a man who spread falsehoods during the federal election. Let's watch.
Of strength going into those negotiations.
We're in a position.
A very good call with Prime Minister Carney of Canada yesterday morning.
Yes.
Actually, Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs, yeah.
Exactly.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. I like them. You know, look, I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico have taken a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years, especially during the Biden years. They took a lot of our business, and it's basically all coming back into the United States now. Well, hot as a pistol, and it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. And it's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday. So I think it'll be good.
So let's be absolutely clear. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States. And while it's different from what we had before, it is still better than that of any other country. So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital.
Are you noticing that this man doesn't look in the least bit sincere? It's like he doesn't believe what he's saying. He doesn't believe his own words. And this to me is absolutely astounding. I've never seen a prime minister look so guilty in an explanation as I have seen Mark Carney.
Everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised CUSMA, our free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, as well as developing a new form of trade and security partnership with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment to CUSMA, I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
So he's admitting here that it was Canada that put tariffs on goods that were covered by the free trade agreement. So the ambassador to Canada, Pete Hextra, has pointed this out. So when Doug Ford takes all of the American liquor and wine off the shelves, you can't buy your Jim Beam, you can't buy your Jack Daniels, you can't buy your Wild Turkey or your California Reds. That was completely outrageous because the Americans haven't taken all of our Canadian liquor off of their shelves. But it's a double standard from day one. Canada has not been playing at all by the rules. And Mark Carney's admitted this yesterday. And he's also admitting that he is a fraud. Anyway, I want to get back to that in a second here. We had Katie Pasitnay has just joined us. Katie, good morning.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Oh, just great. It's so thank you for joining me at this ungodly hour out in British Columbia. But it's much appreciated.
Yeah.
So of course, as you notified me the other night, and as has been reported in a lot of the mainstream and independent media, you have been unsuccessful in your appeal to overturn the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's order that you essentially eradicate, kill 399 of your ostriches.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say I'm shocked because I know governments hang together, but when did you first hear the news, Katie?
Wasn't yesterday? Was the day before, Thursday. Yeah. So we got the notification from our lawyer that we were unsuccessful in our federal court of appeals with 3 judges. It came back as a unanimous no. Honestly, it was a little shocking. We thought we would get a split decision in there at least. But I guess then that's what we're looking is for some common sense, which I think what you're talking about right now just doesn't exist. We're really struggling where we're looking at it's a dangerous precedence because with Canada taking the directives from the World Health Organization and the World Animal Health Organization, that's being chosen over Canadian sovereignty. And we're putting our Canadian citizens at risk by food security, food shortage, and killing off natural immunity.
Well, one thing I do want to say, because I think there are still people out there who are not well acquainted with this story, even though I've done many stories on this.
Yes.
This has got nothing to do with food. You're not selling these ostriches for food. Why the Canadian Food Inspection Agency even got involved in the first place is a mystery to me. But this is what you're doing. And this is the irony about this for me, is that these ostriches are serving a vital interest to science and scientific understanding of immunity.
Yes.
Which is exactly what your birds developed as a result of whatever happened at your farm last November, December. So I'll get back to that in a minute because I really want to talk about how absurd this decision is becoming as we go farther and farther away from the outbreak. But you seem resilient, you seem defiant. So what are your next steps now?
So we are. I mean, right now we have a bunch of intertwined emotions with one is a little bit of fear, but a lot of that is more hope. We are resilient. We're resilient like the ostriches at 221 days healthy today. They are thriving, healthy animals with herd immunity. And, they have undeniable proof that nature works. And I think that we really need to focus on that. Our next steps will be another emergency stay order. We've already applied for that. We are waiting to hear on that. talking to our lawyer, because we got a unanimous no at the Federal Court of Appeals stage, we are really limited to our Supreme Court probably acceptance. So that is a little bit fear that's where the fear comes from. But again, we have to rise up. You know, I keep saying on some of my lives, and I really want to say it here again, rise up, Canada. Like, here we are, we have Canadian Food Inspection Agency coming after our seeds, our land, our animals, our rights. We have these non-governing bodies that came in 7 years ago, like the World Health Organization and the World Animal Health Organization, that are giving us directives that are directly impacting our country, our people, and we need to start taking our power back. These organizations are running with excessive freedom, no accountability, and they are impacting all of our industries. So we are asking for the voice of the people to continue to rise up, because we have the momentum, we have international support. There's a lot of people who believe in what we believe in, and that is herd immunity and natural immunity, and antibodies exist. We would not survive and we wouldn't be here if we didn't have antibodies and if we didn't have natural immunity, and we need to remember that as we approach September, where we are at the perfect timing for them to start to orchestrate the next pandemic that they're going to threat, saying that every time anybody has a sniffle or a flu, it's going to be H5N1. And we have to educate ourselves on how H5N1 operates, what effects it has, how we have had thousands of people here at our farm, and we are all okay, and that antibodies exist. We should be carrying around antibody cards, not vaccination cards. We should be able to be proof of antibodies that we all carry. If this was such a great threat, we wouldn't have our beaches open all summer. We wouldn't have had our lakes open all summer. We wouldn't have had our children and our families swimming in the lakes with the migratory ducks and the birds. And here we are with the best opportunity in Canada to create the change that we all deserve. So they came after the truckers, they came after the frontline workers, and now they are attacking our agricultural sector, and we need to rise up.
Well, what's happening at the farm right now? Have you still got journalists present there? I know Rebel News has been doing an outstanding job covering the story and being on the scene. Have you got other people, supporters, who are camping out? Because personally, I can't see the Food Inspection Agency taking action when there's going to be people present, whether it's day or night. And I really think, you know, we've got to go Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, nonviolent protest here to ensure that the authorities, the government, doesn't get violent, because they are the ones who are threatening violence here, threatening death against these birds. Yeah. So have you got people prepared to be there and to wait it out with you?
We do. There's people flying in from Ontario, driving in from Ottawa. We have people coming in from across Canada right now. We are getting people slowly trickling in back to our field because now we are in an open call order stage, which means Canadian Food Inspection Agency has the authority to come in and inhumanely kill almost 400 lives. So we have an amazing group of really peaceful, kind-hearted individuals that have started to deviate their last camping trips of the summer, you name it, and just say, if we can come here for 2 days, or we can come here for a month, or maybe we can come here for a week, we're going to come and stand with you because we see how big this is for Canadian citizens. And so we want to give a shout out to all those people who continue to support us after this long. It has been a big journey, and we have been extremely blessed with a great group of people that continue to stand by us.
It seems to me that time is on your side. And if there's any way to keep these people from entering your farm and culling 399 birds, I think that's a good thing, because somebody was pointing out to me yesterday, and it really wasn't news to me, but I thought about it and I said, you know, this is absolutely absurd. This outbreak of whatever it was, and we still haven't, we're not 100% sure it was avian flu. But this was 9 months ago. And you've got 399 healthy birds walking around your farm. So how on earth can the government consider these birds to still be a threat when they have been healthy for this amount of time? I mean,
Yeah.
what is the rationale here?
So, David, remember this too. There's a couple of really big key facts to point out with what you just said. None of these ostriches that are survivors with herd immunity, not one of these ostriches out here in this field, have been tested. So that's huge. Not one of these animals have been tested. Yes, there was 2 that were PCR tested back in December, but not one of these surviving animals that have survived 9 months have been tested. If we test them, we are still threatened 6 months in jail and or a $200,000 fine per ostrich. So they're not our animals anymore. We've been stripped away from the rights that these are our animals, not the government's animals. This is another point. Canadian Food Inspection Agency has not been present on our farm for more than 5 months. 5 months. Yet we have such a fearful virus that is putting public health and safety at risk. And so we really need to emphasize on that. 5 months. This is really important. This is a test of strength. This is a test of our resources. This is a test of how the Canadian citizens are going to react and how, if we're going to push back. Policy is meant to change. Policy is not law. In our documents that we received from the lawyer, 41-page document, it stated very clearly that they had a Section 48, paragraph 2, that they could go to. It allows treatment effective in eliminating the spread. CFIA says that Section 48 permits more than a binary approach. So we should have been offered anything besides stamping out. When they realize that we are in non-food consumption, non-threat, no flightless animals under quarantine that offer opportunity for animal and human welfare, we should have been given the options of treatment, testing, monitoring, quarantining. And they jumped right to stamping out, which is killing everything. By killing everything on all of our farms, whether you have a dog, a cat, whether you have exotic birds, pigs, chickens, or cows, or ostrich, by eliminating everything, we are losing our biodiversity, our genetic diversity. We are losing natural immunity at an alarming rate since 2022. Stamping out has been in effect for almost 24 years. And we've never looked back at it. But we need to look back at this policy and push back at it to protect our farmers, our health. We need to protect our agricultural sector. We need to protect our nutritional food supply because we are losing it at an alarming rate. If these animals keep dying and the mums, in a very simple, explanation, the mums that have been raised and they're maybe 10 years old or maybe they're 5, but they've been bred from very great healthy genetics, they have immunity. They have immunity to things that their immune system has overcome. They have antibodies. Those antibodies get passed down to their young. Their young would pass those antibodies down to their young. But if we are wiping out everything, we're losing all natural immunity. It is a catastrophic chain of events that's going to lead to failure of humanity. We will not have natural immunity anymore, and we are going to be solely reliant on vaccinations for survival and medications by Big Pharma. And the Universal Ostrich Farms is ground zero for therapeutic development, antibody research, and a better way.
Well, I think that's definitely the other pillar for me of the story is natural immunity being destroyed. The other pillar for me, of course, is that the government thinks it can enter anybody's private property and kill their livestock. And it does not have to have any respect for private property. It doesn't even recognize private property. And to me, we've been talking a lot about a narco tyranny lately. And, that's a system where the government is very lax with real criminals who go about robbing and stealing and causing mayhem, but they tend to be very rough on people who don't agree with their narrative, who don't agree with their policies, and they make life absolutely miserable for them. And of course, that's what happened to Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, and they're still
Yeah.
going through that. This to me is all about government hubris. This is about the completely artificial pride that the government thinks they were right and they are afraid to admit they're wrong. Because it seems to me they could easily compromise here. They could easily come back and say, okay, you have demonstrated after 9 months, there's no longer a problem here. Maybe we were a little hasty and perhaps it's time to think about this, but they're not even prepared to do that.
No.
And I think
You know,
go ahead.
David, we're in a precedence war. That's what we're in right now. We're in a precedence war, and this has nothing to do with common sense or doing the right thing anymore. And that is what's scary. We're putting very big hope, and I'm putting out a public plea to Health Minister Heath MacDonald and to Mark Carney, as well as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, to use their Section 48, Paragraph 2. Please collaborate with us, work with us. This doesn't have to be a bloodshed, and it doesn't have to end in a bad way. We can actually start to protect and start putting, fixing that eroded trust between our farmers and our Canadian citizens and organizations that are meant to protect us, not attack us. So we are putting out a public plea to Health Minister Heath MacDonald and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Do the right thing. Work with us. All the Canadians are watching. The world is watching what we're going to do here at Universal Ostrich Farms. This is a dangerous precedent for farmers because what it's proving is that property rights, livelihoods, food independence, everything can be taken away with very little recourse. And we deserve the right to live.
Well, I know Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the U.S. took a very, very active interest in this, had encouraged the Canadian government to reverse their decision. I hope he continues to take an active interest in this, but I hope Donald Trump takes an active interest in this because he seems to have a way of persuading Mark Carney to change his mind about things, as he did yesterday over a phone call. So I'm hoping perhaps Donald Trump can change Mark Carney's mind, because if Mark Carney's mind has changed on this, it's going to happen overnight for you. And in the world we're living in right now, that's a possibility, actually. And I put that out there. If there are any American viewers watching today, and we do have quite a few, encourage your president to get actively involved in this and to call up Mark Carney and give him a dose of common sense.
Yeah. We need to see leaders, not politicians. And we need to start fixing these, creating some repair in these organizations, restoring trust and faith back into Canadians that these organizations work for us, not against us. Most of all, like I said, this is every morning we're going to wake up, we're going to feed the animals, knowing that they're living under threat. But every night we're going to sleep knowing that their resilience has already changed us. And they've changed, that resilience has changed us on a global scale, and it could change the world if it's given a chance. So please, Canada and the US, rise up. Support us here at Universal Ostrich Farms. Canada, rise up. It's our time. We need to just start showing there's a better way, peacefully. Show there's a better way. The people's voice matters. Our industries matter. Our hardworking Canadians matter. And our future matters. Please, please, please stick with us. And we're not giving up. So it's going to, in my eyes, I guess the next battle just begun.
Well, Katie, thank you for coming on the show today. I'm always here for you.
Thank you.
I support what you're doing 100%, because, as I said, this is about more than just one farm. It's about all farms in Canada. It's about a government that doesn't give a damn about private property. Doesn't give a damn about the real science either. And you've eloquently pointed that out. You know this issue so well. And I think it's so impressive to me that you understand exactly what's at stake here. So I applaud your courage, and I applaud your bravery, and I applaud your perseverance, because that's sometimes what it takes to move governments. It's perseverance, it's motivation, and its strength as a character, and that's what you exhibit so much of, Katie. And I just want to take my hat off to you today and say thank you for continuing the fight, because your fight is all of our
fight. It's all of our fight. No, don't wait before it's too late. They're going to come to your door and use the same policy that we're fighting for you for. They're going to use the same policy. They cherry pick through the policy. They create a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's not right. We need to protect our farmers, our people, our citizens, and please come together in a united way with lots of love, but just loud voices. Come together. Don't back down in a peaceful way. Take to Facebook. Go protest in your streets kindly. Farmers, rise up, Canada. This is our time. David, you've always been so amazing. You talk about really important topics that we need to hear every day. And I appreciate you, your platform, and all of your viewers.
Well, thank you, Katie. And we'll talk again. And I'm hoping and praying for victory for Universal Ostrich Farm. And thank you again for everything you're doing for freedom in Canada. And we'll talk again. Thanks, Katie.
Sounds good. Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Katie Pasitnay, what a courageous woman. What a brave woman. She's fighting not just for her farm. She's fighting for all farms, but more than that, all Canadians who don't have private property rights, especially in BC, where the Supreme Court in BC handed over private property rights to First Nations and it's now a race-based property rights system in BC, and that's going to extend to Canada if we don't fight this. I'm going to go back to Mark Carney now, because this is incredible to me. This is Mark Carney exhibiting Mark Carney at his worst. I can't really explain why I'm saying this, but I'm going to do my damnedest. Let's go back to that incredible statement. I think just get to the beginning of this here. It's really quite something.
It's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday. So I think it'll be good.
So let's be absolutely clear. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States. And while it's different from what we had before, it is still better than that of any other country. So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital. We do everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised CUSMA, our free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, as well as developing a new form of trade and security partnership with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment to CUSMA, I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Notice now the vocabulary has changed. We're going to match the tariffs. And I'll get back to this, but as I was saying earlier, do you understand you're being played here? You were played during the election. Most of you viewers knew it. Most of you viewers of this station understood what was happening. That this was Mark Carney completely misrepresenting what he was going to do if he became prime minister. This is a game. This is a terrible game, and you are the ones suffering. We are the ones suffering as a result of this.
Your critics are going to say that this is an elbows down approach, that you're backing down to Trump. What are you gaining by dropping these tariffs?
So the first thing to say is, let's be clear. We have the best deal of anyone in the world right now.
You've dumped the digital services tax. You haven't responded to additional increases in tariffs from the Americans, and now you're removing counter tariffs here with no changes from the U.S. side in terms of how things are going. Why do you think appeasing Donald Trump in this trade war will work for Canada?
Well, the first thing is we're matching what the United States has done, what the president has done. We have the best deal of any country with the United States right now.
At pretty much every stop during the election, you referenced elbows up and saying that was going to be the strategy you take with the Americans. You also consistently said that Donald Trump was trying to break us so he could own us. Your new argument today is that Canadians should accept basically the best of a bad deal. What's been the change?
Wait. I reject the premise of that question or your characterization of what I'm saying. We have the best.
He's literally thinking, how do I get out of this? And when Mark Carney says, let's be clear, that's an indication that he won't be clear. None of this is clear. This is the worst bureaucratese language I have ever seen from a prime minister. It's worse than anything Justin Trudeau ever promulgated. But this is Mark Carney, or shall we say Marxist Carney, coming up with absolutely nothing for this reporter. It's like he's buying some time and hoping, can somebody rescue me here?
Deal with the United States right now. Okay? We have the best deal. Look at the numbers.
Best deal. How many times did you hear Mark Carney say, we don't have the best deal? Now it's the best deal. Does this strike you as something Orwellian? Like out of 1984? On Monday, it was a horrible deal. The United States was the enemy. On Friday, this is the best deal we have. And thank God we're working as good partners with the United States. It's Mark Carney at his most Mark Carney-ish.
Saying about this matching the U.S. deal or what U.S. has put on Canada. In fact, it's only matching the goods under CUSMA, but in other areas, we're not matching the U.S. at all. They have 50% tariffs on our steel and aluminum products, but we only have 25% tariffs in return. Are you going to raise those tariffs to match that?
We're not raising those today. We've matched the tariffs on autos, similar structure as the U.S. We do have a difference between our tariff on U.S. steel and our tariff on U.S. aluminum. Those are part of the intensive discussions that we're underway right now.
Is that something that you'd look at in the future? And also,
we will look at. I'll give you three questions. I'll give you a short answer to that, which is that we'll look at everything in the future. I mean, we look at our industry both in terms of how we support their retooling, their investment in the industries, liquidity for today, helping their workers, buying Canadian, diversifying markets, but of course trade policy, including with the United States, is part of that. But we're engaged in discussions with the United States about exactly those sectors. And that's what we want to advance to the benefit of our workers and our economy.
Once again, he's not making any sense because it's like he flipped the script overnight. And this is what the Liberals have done for years. But Mark Carney really thinks he's going to get away with this. There's apparently an Abacus poll coming out today saying for the first time in 5-6 months, the Conservative Party is leading the Liberal Party. Well, I'm surprised it took this long, but maybe Canadians are beginning to realize how much Mark Carney is completely hollow.
you're talking about this putting us in a good position in the next phase, presumably the CUSMA negotiations. But as other people have pointed out, we've already folded on the digital services tax. We're taking away these counter tariffs. How is this a position of strength going into those negotiations?
We're in a position. First off, I'm in the negotiations, so I have a sense of how the negotiations are. This puts us, and directly the conversation the President and I had yesterday, is that we'll be following up in short order, he and I, on the progress on our discussions. So the teams are engaged, re-engaging on this. This helps accelerate that. Look, but it's a negotiation. There's no guarantees in these things. But the basis of this is we're matching what the United States has done. Okay, we're matching what the United States has done. we're putting ourselves in a position which is consistent with Kuzma, right? And that both clears away an issue with the U.S. The longer it goes on where we're not matching what the U.S. has done. In the U.S., the carve-out, what they call the USMCA carve-out, but it effectively is this free trade for 85%. They just made that official. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they just made that official with the executive order. So we're responding to that. It's obviously, in our judgment, the right thing to do so we can focus in on those strategic sectors exclusively, and also be consistent with Kuzma, where there is going to be, Kuzma in a very different trade environment is going to look different. And what we need to do is to make sure we're focusing in areas that where it's the mutual benefits are very clear. So in other words, the arrangements in strategic sectors are mutually reinforcing. They're mutual benefits. So the agreement supports it, but the economics drives it. And that's the way we move forward.
Absolute dribble. This guy has been caught with his pants down. The emperor wears no clothes. And that is Mark Carney in spades right now. It's incredible to me that he really thinks we're going to buy this. Even the mainstream media present at this news conference were saying something doesn't smell very good here. Something doesn't look very honest here. And I think that's precisely what the problem is. One more response from Pierre Poilievre.
Today we learn that it has been yet another capitulation and climb down by Mark Carney. His elbows have mysteriously gone missing. And this call follows on other concessions. He promised during the campaign he would have dollar for dollar retaliation. He pulled that back. He made concessions on the military while getting nothing in return. He pulled back on his digital services tax, a terrible tax, but you'd think he'd get something in return for it. Nothing. And today, he removed even almost all of the tariffs on the United States and got none lifted from Canada.
I'm not going to watch David Cochrane cue ball because it's too painful. I'll be back in a minute, though, with a couple of more comments from Pierre Poilievre about this. Yes, please have a look at the store. We've got some great merchandise there. Want to end the show with this comment here from Pierre Poilievre. So I showed earlier, but it bears repeating because in some ways the Liberals and Mark Carney have set a trap for Pierre Poilievre. They want Pierre Poilievre to come back and say, "Put on those retaliatory tariffs." They want Pierre Poilievre to go against Donald Trump. And it did absolutely no good for Pierre Poilievre during the federal election. He took the bait during the federal election and made it all about that evil Donald Trump. Pierre Poilievre needs to emphasize that the retaliatory tariffs are not going to be good for Canadians. But Mark Carney's even worse for Canadians. Mark Carney is somebody who can't tell you what he's actually going to do. And he based his campaign on falsehoods, a completely misleading premise, and he won he won the election under false pretenses.
One elbow since he took office, except at our own workers. He did not meet his promise of a July 21st deal with the Americans. Again, his promise, not mine. He did not, he's backed down while claiming that he would stand up. And he's gotten absolutely nothing in return. In fact, American tariffs are twice as high on Canada today as they were when Prime Minister Carney took office, promising to deploy his negotiating skills to get us a win. He promised he would have elbows up. He promised he could, quote, handle Trump, and that he would, quote, negotiate a win. Those are his promises, and he needs to be judged by his word. And this was not any promise, just any old promise on page 73 of his platform. It was the promise on which he ran his entire election campaign. And now he's abandoning it. So either he admits that he was wrong all along, or that he knowingly spread falsehoods to get elected. He needs to explain which of those two things it is.
Yes, very good. And that's where Pierre Poilievre needs to fight, the position he needs to fight from when Parliament resumes this fall. Thank you so much for watching today, folks. It's been a pleasure doing this Saturday broadcast. I'm David Krayden, broadcasting, of course, live, as I always do, from Ottawa. Please tune in again tomorrow. We'll have more of the news you need to know with our perspectives and our analysis. Keep fighting. Resolve to resist. God bless what's left of this country. Godspeed to all of you, and I'll see you tomorrow.